So should we get popping?
Let's get popping.
All right.
There's something bad here in the ground. It's like not good. It's not pure. It puts off a vibe, a bad, bad vibe.
Hello. Hi, friends. We're so glad you're joining us at the Activity Continues podcast. Welcome to our very first episode of season 3.
Whoop, whoop.
If you're new here, we are friends, soul sisters, as a psychic said once,
Right.
who recap episodes of the TV show The Dead Files, and we talk about other creepy stuff, as well as mundane stuff about our lives, true crime, kind of anything, you name it, we talk about it. And I'm Megan.
And I'm Amy.
Thanks for joining us. This week, Amy is recapping the Dead Files episode called Terrorland. It is from season 9, and it is episode 12, and it originally aired on June 1st, 2018. And Amy, why don't you tell us why you chose this episode?
Well, I was looking at the spreadsheet that we have of all of the episodes we've done in the past, and I felt like season 9 was underrepresented. We'd only done 1 or 2. And so I decided I was going to pick one from season 9. And then I just asked Janet for the number between 1 and 13. And she gave me 9. And then when I looked at it, I was like, I remember this one being really cool because it's about an abandoned amusement park.
Okay, well, the creep factor is already off the
I
charts
know.
right now.
I know.
That's the problem with just randomly picking episodes, is it gets hard to follow. So thank goodness you have a spreadsheet. Because
Yeah. Well, it's me. Of course I have a spreadsheet. I have a spreadsheet for everything in my life.
I've been on TikTok and I wish that I could bullet journal, because some of the people who bullet journal,
Yeah.
it's beautiful.
I know. I
It
tried
is
doing one year.
So soothing.
Hmm.
I could watch it for hours,
I
just
know.
people bullet journaling.
Just like
But I'm
cutting the
not-
paper and all that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they write it, so nicely.
I don't have that.
And
good
I don't have
handwriting.
that. No.
I used to
do
have
it-
really good handwriting, but I don't anymore.
I do it for maybe a week, and then
Mhm.
I'd be like, fuck this. And
That's exactly what I did. I
Yeah.
bought the whole journal. I bought the
Yeah.
pens, everything. And I was like, I had my goals for the year
You're like,
and
I'm
everything.
so organized.
And it was super fun for about maybe 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And then I was like, fuck that.
And then you're like, I'll just be disorganized. That's how I've lived.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm
Pretty-
organized, but I can't do it in a bullet journal. I can't do it that way.
That's why I was a little late today, because I've been crafting hard this week. And so I record where I craft. And so there was just fucking glitter everywhere and resin and clay. And I'm like, I could not. So I cleared a little space.
That's right. That's good. That's good.
But yeah, what have you been up to? I mean, it feels
I
like
know.
a hot minute, but I don't
I
think
know.
it's been a terrible amount
Well,
of time.
No, I think, we just missed one. There's just 1 week that we did
Yeah.
not record. And we did still put out a little something, but
Mhm.
we recorded it
blurb.
separately. Yeah. So what have we been doing? Well, we had Christmas with the moms.
Yeah, we were
that
sick
was
for
fun.
Christmas, so we
Yeah.
had to stay home because we got
sucks.
the colds.
Yeah.
It was really a bummer. And, because it was more a bummer for us than it was for the kiddo, because
Yeah.
he's 2, so he doesn't really understand what's going on.
He doesn't know what he's missing.
No, he doesn't know what he's missing. Santa, I think, will start making an appearance next year.
Oh.
Because I think he'll be old enough to where he can kind of understand, oh, I'm getting presents and I
Yeah.
can open these presents. Like this year, he just,
We didn't.
like for his birthday, he just took tissue paper out of bags and ran around. Like, didn't really get it. So,
Oh, funny.
so yeah, we didn't really do much. We haven't even opened presents yet, but John told me he did get me a combination of birthday and Christmas gift of new tires. So that's all I wanted, because that's how you know you're old, when your husband is like, do you want new tires? And you're like, oh, yeah.
And then I'm like, I don't want that for Christmas. That's something I should get anyway.
Yeah.
I want
What did
something. I want something like this fluffy thing that my mom gave me.
Oh.
Greg did also get me a pair of pajamas that were on my wish list. They're
Nice.
satin and they're purple, and I
Uh-huh.
wore them last night, and I almost slid right out of bed.
Do you have satin sheets too?
No, but the
Oh.
sheets are new and they're nice and they're
Mhm.
smooth, and so I
Mhm.
got in there and I slid right into the middle of the bed. And I even said to Greg this morning, I'm like, these are super comfortable, but if my sheets were satin too, I would have
You'd
slid
be
right out.
You'd
I'd have
slid
been on
right
the
out
floor.
bed.
They're really comfy though.
That's funny.
Yeah. All right. Should we get in?
Yeah, let's just pop in.
Let's just jump right
And
in.
I have not listened to this yet. Or I mean,
Watched it.
watched it.
I will tell you there's quite a bit of child death in history. And so I'm trying
Okay.
to just like, I'm not even going into the details. I'm going to try to just gloss over it because it's a lot, but it's not current. You know what I mean?
It's a little easier if it's not
yeah.
current.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Let's do this.
Okay.
Everybody, let's do it to it. All right, sorry.
So the episode was called Terrorland, and it's I wrote season 12, episode 9. I believe it's episode 9, season 12. The original air date
Which is what you mean, season 9, episode 12?
Yeah, that's what I think it is. But
Okay.
I had written in my notes season 12, episode 9.
Oh, okay. So it's reversed.
I think it's the other way around. I'll
Okay.
fix it. I'll fix
Okay.
it in post.
Okay.
The original air date is June 1st, 2018, and I already told you about why I chose it. Okay, this takes place in Lake Shawnee, West Virginia.
Ooh, East Coast. West Virginia. That's where the Mothman is, isn't it? West
Is it?
Virginia?
Oh, I don't know, maybe.
I think it is West Virginia.
Maybe.
West Virginia. You got a lot of shit going on.
Yeah. So it is, the client is Chris, and he owns an abandoned theme park, and he's worried about his mother who lives there and the volunteers who work there.
Mm-hmm. What?
Yeah. Hang on.
Okay.
Also, it's not abandoned. His mom lives on the property in a nice
Yeah.
house. It's not abandoned. It has
Mhm.
gone into disrepair, and they have left it there doing
Okay.
that. So,
Okay.
So, client experiences are they've seen full body apparitions, shadows, they're hearing voices, and they're being pushed and shoved. So we meet Chris. He's talking to Steve, and he says he's worried that the activity is picking up. And his
Okay.
mom lives on the property. He lives nearby with his family. And so Steve is like, all right, help me out here. What's going on? What is this? What's this all about? And he says they give history tours and ghost hunting tours.
Oh,
On the
Amy's
property.
gonna be mad.
I
Amy's
know.
gonna be mad.
That's what I say. I'm like, ooh, Amy's not gonna like that. And then Steve
Mm-mm.
preps him that Amy's probably not gonna be down with this.
No, because okay. I'm already annoyed. Like
I know.
you call in a ghost hunting team, or not a ghost hunting, but investigators,
Mhm.
and then you're like, oh, and we give ghost hunting tours.
Yeah.
So you're
Yeah.
already ticking the spirits off or pissing them off, or
Right.
not pissing them off, but like what's the word I'm looking for?
Agitated?
Yeah, like
Kind of stirred it up?
thank you, stirring
Yeah.
up activity, and then you're like, I don't know why there's activity
Can you
here.
imagine? It must be my dandelion in a jar. That guy.
That guy.
That
What
guy.
was his name? Like Dave or
Elvis.
Dan?
Elvis. Any word? Oh no.
Elvis and his dandelion in a jar.
Oh my God. Anyway, so Chris's dad bought this property in 1985,
Mhm.
and he wanted to restore it and reopen it as an amusement park.
How'd that go?
Well, I will tell you that some of the stuff that went on in the episode was not exactly what happened in real life.
Okay.
I read a couple articles later.
Okay. Okay.
Also, this location has been on several ghost shows, and I
Really?
watched 3 of them,
Okay.
and some of them tell a different story, which I'll
Really?
get to at the end. But
Was one of the ghost shows with Back Zagans?
no, it wasn't.
Really? Okay.
No, it wasn't. I mean,
Okay.
he might have done it, but I didn't see that.
Okay. He probably did.
He probably did. So Chris's dad passed away from cancer in 2010. He lived on the site until he passed, but he did not die there. He died in the hospital. And my notes say I have more on this that wasn't in the show. I'll tell you later.
Okay. Stand by.
Stand by.
Stay tuned.
Chris's brother lived there too, and he also died, but of a heart attack. But he was only 51 years old. That's younger
Heart
than me.
attacks. Yeah.
That's scary.
Heart attacks are common with ghosts, we've learned.
I know. And that it is due to the energy of the house or of the land. So he won't sell it because it was his father's dream. He said he's at the point where, quote, going to let the land do what it wants. If the land wants to create itself back into an amusement park, we'll let it happen. But if it doesn't, we'll just follow the land.
How is the land going to turn itself into an amusement park?
Exactly.
Are there fairies? Nymphs?
I know. The Ferris wheel is like covered in weeds. Like you can barely see there's a Ferris wheel underneath there. There's so much stuff. And so I'm like, do you think the land is just going to clear itself of its weeds? What do you have to do something. You do have to work a little bit. You can't just wish it.
Yeah.
So I don't know what he's getting at there. And this whole thing sounded really weird to me. Like I was like, this guy.
It sounds sketch. It sounds like he, especially given the fact that you said it's been on several other shows, sounds like he's kind of
he's looking for publicity.
Attention seeker.
Yeah. He's looking for publicity for his thing, and not so much that he wants to get rid of any ghosts. I'm not saying it's not haunted. I think it is, but I don't think.
I think it's.
I think he came into this with a different.
Who was that other guy that did the exact same thing? Went on several ghost shows, and
was it an inn in California, a hotel, maybe? Yeah,
it was something because they were doing ghost tours with it, an inn or a bar or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think I know which one you're talking about. It was the girl that got murdered in the parking lot.
Yeah. And he was on other ghost shows, like saying different things. This sounds like that.
Yeah, it does. I'm a little
skeptical.
I'm a little skeptical. So then Steve is talking to Chris outside the mom's house. It's a really nice house. It's nicely kept up. It's big, and she lives there by herself. But he says that she'll call him in the middle of the night, and he has to go down there and make sure she's okay, which does not jive with information we learn later. But anyway, Steve asks what experiences Chris has had, and he says he'll see images out of the corner of his eye, and Steve's or like shadows, and he says, why don't you just assume that it's shadows or people walking around? And he said, because no one is allowed on the property. It's private property and nobody's allowed on it. And I'm like,
because nobody ever goes on private property.
Right. And so except for your family and your mom and your people that work
and the
for
volunteers.
Yeah. Again, a lot of that stuff he said didn't make any sense. And I think I might have been picking up on Steve's vibe because I got the impression that Steve was like, you sound like you're full of shit. And because he was questioning him, and like when he was asking this guy about his own experiences, he kept talking about what other people see, and he's like, let's talk about what you see. What are your he had to bring him back to that. And then the guy just said he feels like a pressure on his back sometimes when he's mowing on the tractor mower.
So could it be the seat that you're sitting in?
Well, he said it was on his back, like his neck.
I bet you Steve,
unless maybe I don't know. I didn't think that tractor seats went up all the way.
No, I don't think they did.
But yeah,
it sounds like Steve probably checked out when he said he does ghost tours.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, honestly, I would have checked out because I would have been like, okay, you called us in here to investigate activity that you're instigating.
But the production team goes and spends months looking up these people, so he had to have known that going into it. Steve. Because he's involved in all of that. Amy might not have known, but he's involved.
And maybe they don't tell him that.
Maybe they don't.
I don't know.
Anyways, he didn't actually seem shocked. He just said, I want to tell you, Amy's probably not going to be okay.
She won't. She'll be ticked.
Well,
you're not respecting the deceased. You're not respecting them.
Right.
You're teaching them. You're treating them as a spectacle. Words are hard for me this morning, but
that's okay. So Chris says he thinks that his dad and brother are both there and they're protecting the place. And he wants it to be protected.
Right.
Okay. So now Amy says, when she's going through, she says there are at least 12 conscious entities here. She doesn't feel safe. They don't want her here. This was sacred land and they didn't want it taken. So of course we're going back to white man stealing
indigenous,
the natives' land.
Yep.
She says she feels like she's being strangled.
Especially in West Virginia. That's like where one of the first places they settled.
Is it?
I think.
I don't know enough about that stuff. I should, but I don't.
I think Jamestown is close to West Virginia, or I know it's on the East Coast. That's okay. We're narrowing it down.
We're narrowing it down. It's that half of the world.
Yeah.
Or that half of the country. I want to say I have probably learned more about Native American stuff just by watching this show than I ever did in school or anything else. So
I watched Pocahontas, which is very historically accurate.
Very historically accurate, I'm sure.
Yep.
All right. So Amy says she feels like she's being strangled. There are natives who do not want her here. Mm-hmm. She sees blood dripping from the chains, she says. And Matt asks her, what are you talking about? There's a swing set there that's like the kind that's like a pole with a big disc on top and the swings hang off.
Yes. Oh, I loved that ride. That was the funnest ride.
Oh, it scares me.
I love it.
Looks so dangerous. But they have one of those there, but it's all overgrown and blah, blah. Right. So she's talking about the chains the swings hang from.
I don't like that.
No. And this movie or this episode has a lot of really cool, like whoever did the photography in this, 10 stars, because really, really cool, like ways of shooting the different rides and the pool and all this stuff.
Nice.
And I was like, oh my God, I got to take a picture. I did take some pictures with my phone of my computer screen. Yeah, that means pictures. Back in the day, that used to be how you take a picture. You actually
had to hold a camera and push a button.
Push the button on the top.
And you didn't know how the picture turned out until you developed it.
Yep. And if you were
and if your finger was in the way or you were moving.
Yeah, there wasn't even an indicator. You just looked through a hole.
Yeah.
So you couldn't tell if your finger was in the way.
No. It was a mystery.
Can't believe we were alive in those times.
Oh, God. It's so basically ancient. The old days. I mean,
it is the old days.
It's amazed we even had running water at that point.
I know, right?
Indoor plumbing.
Okay, so Steve is now talking to Jewel. That is Chris's mother who lives there. Mm-hmm. He asks her if she feels like it's unsafe, and she says no. She said Chris wants her to go live with him, but she won't. So I'm getting the impression that she loves it there. She's fine. Yeah. And Chris just wants her to go live with him. And so he's like making it seem like it's worse than it is.
Yes, I was just going to say that. If that's true, then he's kind of a piece of shit if he's trying to manipulate people this way.
Yeah. I don't know.
If she's happy living on her own and she can do it and she's not in danger.
But see, then I'm like, why did he say she calls him in the middle of the night and makes him come down there? She's not scared.
No.
She seems fine.
Yeah. If what she's saying is true, yeah, she's just enjoying living her golden days.
Right.
Right. Most people who, when they get older, they don't want to live with their kids.
Yeah.
Unless they have to.
Unless they're Barbie Lotsberg. My mom wants to. I'll cut that part out.
Survive.
Oh my God. One of us would not survive. That's for sure. We would not both make it out.
Especially given the recent conversations you've had with her.
Oh my God. I don't think I told you about Christmas.
You did a little bit.
Did I tell you about when she was commenting on people's weight?
Yep. You told me that, but you didn't go into detail. You just said she did. You said you laid into her.
There's no way we could live together.
Anyways, so he's making it. He sounds like he's manipulating her.
It does kind of sound like that. I mean, and like I said in the other shows I watched, he seemed fine. He was normal, but this one, he did not come across very well. Anyway.
Yeah.
So Jewel says that things are moving in the house. She's had experiences. She's just not scared. Mm-hmm. She said that things are moving, like pencils, keys, paper. She'll set it down. She'll come back in the room. They're gone. Then
maybe it's like a brownie.
That's what I was thinking. I even wrote house brownies.
Yeah.
She said they always come back. Sometimes right away. Sometimes
tricksters.
A week later. Yeah. Yep. And then she said she saw what she called an Indian warrior.
Yes, I've seen an apparition of an Indian warrior.
Why do you say it's a warrior? How do you know that?
Because of the way he's dressed. He has no shirt, and he had some type of instrument in his hand.
Okay, so it appeared like he was ready for battle?
Right.
And she went raised her hand like it was a tomahawk or something?
Yeah, like a weapon, not an instrument.
A weapon, yeah. And, that's instrument. No, never mind. I was going to do an Ani DeFranco line. Every tool is a weapon if you hold it right. Anyway, so Steve says,
Very true. Very true.
so Steve says,
I think if I walked in and there was an Indian warrior holding a weapon, I think I'd be a little uneasy about it.
Maybe you would be.
But you weren't.
I love her.
It was
I love
great.
her.
It was great.
Jewel.
and then
You
she just got this
badass.
like little smirk. Oh, she was adorable.
Maybe
So,
you would.
maybe you would, but I'm tough. She says that both her husband and her son, the two who have both passed,
Mhm.
have had experiences. And Steve asks how her husband took it when it didn't seem like his dream was going to come true and the place wasn't going to be restored. And I just have to say, this is really weird. It didn't seem weird at the time because I hadn't watched the other episodes yet. But
Mhm.
anyway, she answers that he probably felt like they were failures because they couldn't get anything working right.
Mhm.
And I didn't know what she meant by working right. I'm like, what happened? Did they run out of money? Could they not find parts for the rides? Or they never said why it
Mhm.
wasn't rehabbed. And then I wrote in my notes, unless Chris really did mean that it was going to repair itself. And
Yeah.
it just never happened.
The land just
Yeah.
was gonna fix itself.
Going to jump up
magically.
and start pulling those
Fix-
leaves off of the
Yeah,
Ferris wheel.
and fix items that aren't part of the land. Like a
Right.
Ferris wheel isn't natural.
Exactly.
What's he gonna do?
I
Put
know.
nuts and bolts into it? Like
I
what?
know. Oh, it's bizarre. It was very bizarre. Anyway, then she thinks whatever is here wants to be the attraction.
Oh, so it wants to focus on it.
That's what she thinks.
Yeah.
Steve asks if she thinks that the son's heart attack was paranormal at all, and she said, "I've never thought about that."
Mm,
So
probably
now,
is.
yeah. So now we're at Amy, and she says, multiple people probably experience stuff. She's feeling like someone who is alive is panicking about things being moved. And I'm like, yeah, but she's not panicking.
She's not panicking.
I mean,
She's
maybe
just like
Chris is panicking on her behalf, but she's cool as a cucumber.
Yeah.
She doesn't care.
she's like, okay, just bring it back when you're done.
Yeah. I could use it by Tuesday, thanks.
Yeah, please don't take my car for a joyride. I need an oil change.
Or get the oil change while you're out there.
Or get the oil change. Oh, and fill it up
the
with
tank.
gas, please. Yeah. Give me new tires.
There you go. And not as a Christmas present.
Not as a Christmas present.
So she says a living person associated with the property is having issues with their heart, and she sees a male who had a heart attack.
Mm.
She says it's a result of being exposed to the energy, and it comes from the Native Americans who don't want anyone there.
Mm-hmm.
Now Steve is talking to Chris's son, Christian, who's probably about 9 or 10,
Oh,
cute little kid.
Yeah.
And he tells Steve that he often feels like someone's watching him or walking behind him. Like he'll hear footsteps behind him and he'll stop, and then he'll hear a couple more like footsteps in the grass behind him.
Mm-hmm.
And so he said one time he was on the swings or at the swings, and he felt someone grab him and hold his arms down to his side, like
Mm-hmm.
so that he couldn't move his arms.
Mm-hmm.
And Steve asked him if he would stay overnight there. And he said no. And he said, would you ever stay at your grandma's house overnight? And he kind of laughs a little like, this is no. And I wrote, I'm thinking grandma likes it there. Nobody bothers her.
Yeah. Yeah. Grandma's got a sweet gig.
Yeah.
She goes over to see the grandkids and then she's
Yeah.
like, okay, bye.
Okay, bye. I'm going home now to my house with no children in it.
To my quiet house where things randomly disappear.
Just
Just probably
me and the-
entertaining.
Just me and the warrior.
Maybe she's got a spreadsheet. She kind of guesses what
There
is
you
going to
go.
disappear next.
There you go.
Like today it was the keys. Tomorrow it's my zipper, my buttons. I don't know. How would you zipper? That was a terrible example.
Maybe she's a sewer in the zippers. She
There
has
we
a whole
go.
box full of zippers.
Thank you for saving me. Yeah.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thanks.
So Steve talks to a bunch of people who are there, but they don't name any of them. They're like the
Okay.
people
They're
that
like
work there, the
volunteers.
volunteers.
Yeah.
They might be people who have visited, but I'm pretty sure they never say who they are. They don't give their name.
Yeah.
They don't say. They just say, "Hey, you experienced something, right?"
Right.
And then they say what they've experienced, and they're mostly things like they saw a man walking on the road who just vanished.
Mhm.
Shadow figures.
Mhm.
One guy said he was pushed, I think. So we're back at Amy, and she says there's something here that is not human. It's about 8 feet tall, and it's wearing robes. And she says it was behind us on the road, like when they
Really?
were driving in.
Yeah.
She said it's not native, but it's
Mhm.
old.
Hmm.
And he's trying to keep people away because bad things happen to people here. So he's not bad. He's trying
So
to,
he's like a protector.
yes, he's trying to keep people away. She said he's not bad, but he is scary.
Hmm.
So big. Then she sees a child who's 8 or 9 years old who has taken upon himself to be the guard. He's
Mhm.
watching all the time. He's solid black. And he says they should not have built a park here for children. And it makes her really uncomfortable.
I wonder if he's actually a child or some entity portrayed themselves as a child.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there were children that died on this property, so it could be one of them. They never really say if it was or not. But so then I wrote, Steve is asking the hard questions. Who the hell built an amusement park in the middle of nowhere, and why did it shut down? And I believe that's how he said it. So he meets with a historian.
The tough ones, yeah.
Yes. He asks what we're all thinking.
Yeah.
And it really seems to be in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
But he meets up with a historian named Pat Smith, a female, Pat, who has a story to tell. And the reasoning for the location is that it's at the intersection of two main roads. And there was some coal mining down there, and the coal miners would use those roads. And so that was a place for the families to come. They could bring their families there, and it was kind of like it was an area they knew about. And they didn't mention this in the episode, but in another article I read, there were little cabins on that property that people could rent out for the weekend for like $10.
Like a resort
and their family.
or something.
Yeah, it was really more like a resort. There was a pool, and by pool I mean basically it was a pond. It wasn't like a ceramic pool
that we
or
think of. Yeah.
And so it was like a swimming hole. And then there was a bathhouse, they called it, but it's like where they had dances and parties and stuff.
Fun.
Like that. I know, it looked really cute. And they could like rent a canoe and on the water, and it was really
it sounds
cool.
like a very like primitive resort.
Yeah. It sounds, I don't know, it sounded really
sounds
cool
fun to me.
I know.
As long as you have indoor plumbing and beds.
Yes, I believe they had, well, it was 1926. So this is the story. Conley Snido opened the property. I know, right? He sounds like a cartoon character.
Hey, I'm Conley Snido.
With one of those mustaches like that you twirl.
Mustache, like the Monopoly guy has.
Yeah. Actually, is it the Monopoly guy that doesn't have a mustache? That's a Mandela effect? Or is it that he doesn't have a monocle? No, he has a monocle, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to look it up right now. I'll cut
it. Or
is
it the Pringles guy?
But I remember I was reading about Mandela effects, and
which I don't really understand. Is that just something that we think happened that didn't happen?
Yes, but like the whole world thinks it happened. Yeah.
With the fruit of the loom.
Yeah. Yeah, it's something that
really like all that like
everybody thinks he had. Oh, he does have a mustache. You're right. And a monocle.
Maybe it's the Pringles guy?
The Pringles has a mustache too. He came up too. All right. But anyway.
Okay.
Something like that. Anyway, let me find my notes again.
Conley Snido.
Conley Snido.
Snido.
Snido. I don't remember exactly. Opened the property in 1926. There were 3 deaths connected to Lake Shawnee. It was called Lake Shawnee Fun Park, I believe.
Okay.
And this is where you skip ahead if you don't want to hear about kids. Okay. So in 1927,
that's my skipping ahead sound. You're welcome.
I could put music behind this, and then people can skip until the music stops. Like I said, I'm not going to get into too much detail, but Snido's 3-year-old daughter was killed at the hotel where they lived. So not even at the property, but she explains how the child died. I'm not going to get into it, but it doesn't make sense to me when the way she describes it. I'm like,
well, now you have to tell me because I want to know.
She says she died. Well, the child was crushed in an elevator.
Okay.
She says something like she tried to grab the floor, and I think what happened is that she somehow got up on top of the car, and the car went up, or either below and the car went down. I don't know. Either way, elevator accident.
Yeah.
And then in 1961 and in 1966, 2 boys drowned in the pool.
Mm.
And so when that happened, Snido closed the park. And that's it for child death. I won't talk anymore. She tells about this Pat. She talks about how she came to the park when she was little, and she was in the pool, and something grabbed her and pulled her down into a hole, she said. And her dad had to pull her out by her hair. So I was telling Greg about this last night, and he said, that sounds like catfish. A catfish, they get really big.
Yeah, they get huge.
They could have grabbed her and pulled her into their hole.
But are catfish predatorial, or are they more? I thought they were more scavenger.
I don't know, but Greg,
because if they're predatorial, that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know, but Greg was referencing the Jeremy Wade shows, the monsters shows.
Yeah, he's a badass.
I know he is.
He's like, there's 10-foot fucking piranhas. I'm gonna go wade out and catch them. Like, okay,
He's
Jeremy.
nuts. He's
He
nuts. He's fun to watch though.
Yeah, he is.
So I found the little girl in the elevator thing that was never brought up in any of the other articles, anything else I read. But what was not brought up in this episode, but was in everything else, is that in the 1950s, a little girl was killed near the swings. So some say she was waiting for the swings, waiting in line to get on, and some say she was on the swing. But the way they talked about it in one of the episodes, can't remember which show it was. I think I wrote it down later. That she was on the swings and she was moving. The swing was going this way, and there was a soda truck, a pop truck. Some called it a pop truck, and I'm like, hey, that's a Midwestern thing. And it slid in the mud, and it basically collided with the swing set, and she swung into it. And so, I don't know.
So
anyway, she was hit by
a truck on the swings.
On the swings.
Okay.
So, and she was never mentioned in the Deadhouse episode, but she was mentioned in every other episode.
I wonder if they might have cut it.
They might have cut it.
Because it doesn't seem like they would leave something like that out.
Well, no, especially because all of the other episodes, all of the other shows I watched, she's like the prominent ghost.
Really?
That's there that everybody sees. Yeah.
Really?
So I don't know what happened. Maybe because Amy didn't see her,
I was just thinking that if Amy didn't have any interactions with her, and not to say that she's not real or Amy doesn't have skills, but maybe the ghost just didn't want to interact with Amy.
Maybe she was taking the day off.
Yeah.
Who knows?
I'm sure mediums and psychics don't interact with every single entity ever.
I'm sure they don't. I'm sure they don't. They're just, that's however they're energetically aligned or whatever. Yeah. So they show Amy again, and she says that she feels tragedy, and she knows that some people died here when it was a park. She said 2 people got hurt or died in the 1960s. Horrible accidents. So
2 boys.
Those little boys.
60, yeah.
61 and 66.
66.
So now Steve is meeting with Danny Barry, who is a genealogist.
Not a gynecologist.
The original owners of this land were ambushed by Native Americans, and it was a bloodbath. So the story is Mitchell Clay. He was the original owner. And in 1775, he moved onto the land with his wife, Phoebe, and 14 children.
Holy crap.
I know. They said 14. I read an article that said 13. And then when Chris was on, the owner was on a different show, he said 17 children. Somewhere between 13 and 17 children this person had.
That's too many kids.
Yeah.
That's a lot of kids.
I know. And they showed the log cabin where they lived. It's like the size of my downstairs.
Yeah.
For 16 people.
Or
20 people.
19.
Yeah. So the Shawnee tribe had come through there to hunt, but they didn't really live on that land since the 1400s. And this was 1775. He says in the late 80s.
1980s?
Yeah.
Okay.
Although I don't know why I'm bringing this up now, because we're not done talking about the, I'm going to bring this up later.
Okay.
Okay. So the natives hadn't lived on that land since the 1400s, but in 1783, the Clay family was ambushed. Mitchell, the dad, and 2 of his oldest sons had gone out hunting and left 2 of the other sons at home to work on a fence. And then the rest of the family was in the house. The Shawnee Indians, yes, even the genealogist used the word Indians, which I thought was odd, came by and murdered and scalped 2 of the kids. I guess we're not done talking about child death, are we? And then kidnapped another kid and left with him. Obviously, that's what kidnapping means. Didn't need to explain that. Amy explained. You almost spit out your coffee.
My coffee. So he kidnapped him, and what I mean by that is he actually took him from where he lives.
He removed him from the premises
against his will. Took him to a different location.
A second location. Never let him take you to a second location.
No, you gotta fight or make him kill you.
Yeah, and make sure you scratch him and get out that DNA under your fingernail. Wouldn't help this guy, but
and don't yell fire. Yell something else.
Oh yeah,
or don't yell. What is it? Don't yell help. What are we? Women aren't supposed to yell help. We're supposed to yell something else, because if you yell help, people will ignore you.
Really?
Yeah.
That's fucked up.
Yep. Great. Anyways, that took a darker turn.
Ooh, okay. So dad comes home to find his kids dead,
Dead
And so he gathered, and one missing. So he gathered his
Kidnapped.
posse. Yeah, kidnapped. And they went after the Shawnee. I don't know how he knew where they were going.
Right.
He found them, but it was too late. They had tortured and burned their kid at the stake.
They burned him?
Mhm.
Babies.
I know. He was a teenager. He was like 17 or something.
I
But
wonder
still,
why.
these were all teenagers. These kids were all teenagers.
I wonder why. Like, what was there a reason, or was it just like the Shawnee felt they were on their land?
Yeah,
and
I
it
think
was
that's what it was.
Okay.
Even though they hadn't lived there for 300 years. I don't know. That seems like
Or
long
maybe
enough
they were
time to-
just, it was just because they saw quote unquote white men on their land and felt they were taking from them.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. Yeah.
That's still terrible.
So the Clays then sold the property and moved away. And
I don't blame them.
yeah, no.
Bless
no.
their, oh God.
I know. So Amy, this is confusing to me. I mean, in this grand scheme of things, Amy sees a bunch of happy people. She says,
There's a bunch of happy people. They were all white. It's all good vibes. People are singing and dancing. There's like a covered wagon thing. I think 1760s. Then the Native Americans got really mad and then kind of went a little nuts.
she hears people screaming and yelling and running around and being murdered.
Okay.
And then she says she's with a mother and she says she thinks she wants to die. And I got the impression she meant the mother wants to die, not Amy does. And she says she wants to kill herself and it's survivor's guilt.
It's survivor's guilt. There's a lot of pain here. These souls are not at rest.
So, and this was before the Clay family.
Well, this was in the 1760s, yes, and the Clay family was in
Was the 70s?
1783.
Okay.
So that had to have been something else that they didn't talk about.
My
It couldn't
initial
have been that same
thought
story.
could be maybe it was like a caravan of people who were
Just coming through.
just going through.
hmm
But yeah, that's
I don't
mean,
think it's the Clay family.
No.
Although Steve brings it up later and says, I think you're talking about blah, blah, blah. But I'm like, that was 20 years
that was
apart.
20 years apart.
And they were not laughing, drinking, talking, partying. They were working.
Yeah.
And there was only two of them outside working.
hmm
The rest of the family was in the house.
Yeah.
There was no covered wagon. So I don't think
Right.
it's the same
No.
instance.
That sounds to me like it's either like a caravan passing through and they made a stop for the night or something like that.
Yeah, that's what I think. So now we go back to Steve and he's digging through the archives at the
Digging through
local library.
archives. Yep. Montage.
Yeah, it's great. I love those. It's
I
fun to
know.
see all these different libraries, especially in
Yeah.
these small towns. It's really cool.
And you can just
know.
smell it too.
Libraries are
You
awesome.
can
I know,
smell
right?
the library.
I know. I
That
love
old,
libraries.
like musty book smell.
Yeah.
Oh, it makes me so happy.
Uh-huh. I know. Like old bookstores.
Oh,
I love it.
yes.
I'd love to work in an old
Oh,
bookstore.
I would
love
never
it.
have a paycheck.
I know. It would just be a fun thing to do, not for money.
Mhm.
Because I wouldn't take home
That would be a
money.
fun job in retirement if you wanted
It
to
would.
work and, not
Yeah,
just be bored all day, work at a.
right.
Oh my God.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
Especially if you're a big reader and you know a lot of books and you can help people pick books and
Mhm,
stuff. Oh, I
mhm.
would love that.
I found a potential website where you read books and you review books and you get paid.
Really?
I'm sorting through it right now, like trying to figure it out. There are a lot of rules. Like when you're reading the books, you have to, if there's a vulgar word, you have to write down what the word is and
Oh.
what page it starts
So you can
on.
tell people what to look for? Yeah.
Yep. And then you have to write up to 10 words and their pages. Anything beyond 10, you don't have to write. You have to write the same for any like erotic scenes that happen or sexual scenes. You have to
Uh-huh.
write that down.
Uh-huh.
And your first few books are free until they can decide if you're like a good reviewer.
Sure. That makes sense.
But I mean, it's not a lot. I think it was like $30 to $60 a review. So you're not going to get rich. It's not going to be.
But if you're going to read all those books anyway.
Yeah, if you're going to read anyway, and if you like reading,
Yeah.
$30 to $60 a book,
Yeah.
you
It's
know,
not bad, especially if you read quickly.
yeah, I'll take it.
Yeah.
So, anyways, that's a little blurb. Once I find out more, I'll
Okay. Let me know.
I'll let you
I'll put it
know,
in the show
but-
notes.
I mean, I hope it pans out because I think that'd be
Yeah.
really fun.
That would be fun.
But anyway,
sure.
I'm so sorry I derailed
That's okay.
us. But old
So-
books, dig into the archives.
Sticking to the archives. So he finds an article about a brutal murder. All murders are
murders
brutal,
are brutal.
for Steve.
Steve. Yep.
Happened in 1935 on or near the property. He said the local cops won't talk to him about it, but he has a friend named Matt McGrew who will.
Oh my God. If that's not the most detective
know.
name you've ever heard in your life.
I know, isn't it great? So Matt McGrew tells Steve about James Kraft Belcher. Lovely
Any
name.
relation to Tina Belcher from
I know,
Bob's
that's
Burgers?
the first thing I thought of too. I'm like, probably not because she's a cartoon, but
No. You don't know.
yeah, we don't know. Which actually the cartoon thing, that's gonna come up in a hang on. When you see
Okay.
never mind. I don't want to give away too much. So his grandparents owned the property in the early 1900s. He grew up there. He was seeing a woman named Myrtle Taylor. She was 19. He was 25.
And this is the Jack,
This is
person.
James Kraft Belcher,
Tina's cousin.
Tina's ancestor. So May 11th, 1935, he sees her eating dinner with another man at a restaurant, I believe. He picks a fight. She refuses to go with him, but he forces her into the car. So
Never
kidnapping.
let him take you to another location.
I know. So they stop the car and get out, and he shoots her twice in the head. Then he puts her back in the car. She's still
Of course.
alive. And he drives her
She's
to the
still
hospital.
alive?
Yep, he drove her to the hospital. And then she died a few hours later.
Oh my
I
God.
know. Imagine how much pain she must have been in.
Bless her heart.
Ugh.
Oh, for
So
having dinner with somebody else.
I know. Well,
And
and
you
here's
don't even
the
know if it was a romantic dinner.
I know. Well, I know. And here's the thing too. And I found this out by reading other articles and other things. He was married. He was separated, but he was married, and she was his mistress. So who the fuck does he get to decide she can't? Whatever. Made me angry.
I found in my experience, meaning shows that I've watched, it's the people who are cheating are always the ones who have the highest moral ground in the relationship.
Of course.
Like, how dare you
Yeah.
see somebody else when
Yeah.
you're with me? Meanwhile, I go home
I
to
do
my
whatever I want.
separated spouse. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it was the 50s. I'm sure they still live
Mhm.
together.
Mhm. Actually, it was
it's not-
1935.
Oh, so even
So
they
even older.
totally live
Mhm.
together.
Yeah, probably.
Like, how is she going to move out? She probably doesn't have a job.
Right.
Probably doesn't have any
Oh,
education.
can you think about these poor women back then that just had nowhere to go?
They had nowhere to go. They had to stay in
Either
this
live with your family, your parents, or you.
and be a complete pariah and judged and shunned and thought of as a failure, even though you
Spinster.
did nothing wrong.
Right.
I hate everything.
Ugh, I
Okay,
know.
moving
Well,
on.
let's be glad we don't live in that time.
Thank the Lord.
So he goes on trial, but he pleads insanity. The jury does not believe him. He goes to
Thank
prison.
God.
I know. He died there in 1993 when he was
Oh,
85.
wow. So he was in prison for like 60 years.
Most of his life. He was 25
Good.
when the murder happened.
Good.
So Steve makes a comment about how it's a shame he was never hung for this. So I guess we know where Steve stands on capital punishment.
I'm with Steve.
I am undecided because I know a lot of times people are in jail for things they didn't do, and that
I know.
is
Or really shitty,
awful.
like
Mhm.
really steep sentences for like marijuana possessions.
Yes,
They're
oh my
getting
God.
better at that, but
hope
if
so.
you kill somebody and there's concrete evidence,
Mhm.
you should die. You
Yeah,
should forfeit your life, in my opinion.
Well,
You
I
take a
think
life,
that
you
they
forfeit
think
a
you
life.
kind of do because you're sitting in prison, but at
But
the
you're
same
still
time, you're
breathing.
still alive. You can still write letters. You can still
Your
talk
f-
to your loved ones.
Your family can come visit you.
Mhm. Yeah.
The victim doesn't get that. They can come visit them
Exactly.
at the cemetery,
Yeah. Yeah.
but you should die. In my opinion.
Okay.
Anyways, sorry, I
Anyways.
got on a tangent.
That's okay.
I
That's
don't
what we
mean
do
to.
here.
Yeah.
So I can't tell where Amy is. She's somewhere on the property. I think she's outside. I don't recall her ever being inside the house.
Really?
Steve was inside the house with Jewel when she was talking about her things going missing and stuff, but I may have it was so dark. It's hard
Yeah.
to tell.
Well, it
Amy may
seems
have
like
been in the house.
most of the activity doesn't take place in the house.
Right.
It's on the actual in the park. So it would make sense that most of
Right.
her investigation was there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So she says she doesn't feel good and she's getting pain in the back of her head and neck.
Probably where she was shot.
Hmm. She thinks that a woman between 14 and 16 years old was hit here. She seemed to be from around the 1940s. This was in 1935.
35.
She feels a bad person here. It's a male, and the woman knows him, and his intentions are not good.
Mm-hmm.
Amy's really hurting. She says she can feel the blood in her mouth, and the pain is horrible. She believes this female was abducted or murdered, and I said, ding, ding, both.
Mm-hmm.
And she said this was a case of blind rage.
Oh, yep.
So now we're going to go to the sketch.
Okay.
Amy wants to have the sketch drawn of the teenage girl who was murdered.
Mhm.
She's the one that stands out to her the most. And when he says, Amy, is this what you saw? I don't think she should have said yes because did I put it in the drive? I did not. I'm going to put the picture in the drive. I will pause here for a sec in recording, or not recording, but in editing. Cut this part out. But I am going to upload the picture. I wish I'd done it before I forgot. Because when I saw this picture, I laughed out loud. Do you see it?
Yep. This looks like a newer artist, like a 10-year-old
Yeah.
doing a self-portrait.
It looks like a picture I would have drawn of Farrah Fawcett when I was 8 years
Exactly.
old.
Yep, exactly.
With the hair.
And the teeth.
I was laughing so hard. And then the other picture I just put in is what she actually looked like. I don't know who that man is that she's with in the picture. I don't think that's him.
That doesn't look anything like her.
And
That
they
looks
were like,
nothing like her.
nothing like her. And they were like, oh yeah, that's definitely her. That's definitely her. Anyway, we'll get to that in the reveal, but.
Okay, no, I'm sorry, but
Yeah.
this is a fail, Amy. Not you, Amy.
No,
Amy.
I know. Yeah. So Amy, this is the reveal now. Amy goes first. She tells them what she saw, that it was really overwhelming.
Who's in the review? Is it Chris?
Oh, it's Chris
Jewel?
and Jewel, his mom.
Okay.
They go, she says there were at least 12 conscious entities who were here. She says too many to go through and tell you about all of them. So I'll just go to the main ones. First is the little boy who's 8 or 9. He's the guard. He watches everyone coming and going. You'd see him as a blob.
Mm-hmm.
And then Chris talks about his son who has felt someone following him. And she's like, yeah, that's probably him. Then she says there's another dead male adult, lots of anger and rage. And she said if a living person was exposed to that energy, it could give them intense anxiety, like they're being stalked.
Mhm.
And Steve mentioned that some of the workers have experienced this. And then there's the very old, strange thing that's 8 feet tall in robes. And he's trying to warn and protect, which she said.
I was really uncomfortable at first. So he's actually someone who's trying to warn and protect, which I found freaking fascinating.
And then I don't think this is part of this. Steve talks about how Chris feels something on his neck when he's mowing the tractor. They speculate it's his dad, but I don't think they're implying that it's the same unhuman thing in the robes.
Yeah.
But they bring it up right at the same time as if they are.
Okay.
But I don't think that's what they mean. So she says there's an overwhelming sense of fear, of sadness and despair. She got that 2 deaths happened in the 60s. They show Steve and he just smirks because he knows. You nailed it.
Sorry, I tried to call. I tried to mute it.
That's okay. So Steve's just like nailed it, you know. She says it seems like a weird place for a park because the energy is so bad.
Mm-hmm.
And Steve says he thought it seemed weird too. And then he tells her about the heyday of the park and the 2 boys who died.
Mm-hmm.
And he also says, talks about the historian and how she had her own issues, her own experiences.
Pat.
Yep. It's Pat. Do you remember that from Saturday Night Live?
I do. The androgynous Pat.
Yep. So Steve wants Jewel and Chris to tell Amy why this is an important place for him. And they talk about how her husband, his dad, had bought the place and tried to get it up and running. And she said nothing worked, so we just had to give up.
Mm-hmm.
Chris says he wants to preserve the property just the way it is. Amy
Or
says,
let the land. I don't think so. Anyways,
Chris says he wants to preserve the property just the way it is.
or have the land
Or have the land fix itself.
fix itself.
Amy says she knows that they have paranormal investigators here. And I'm like, how does she know that?
Probably
When
the
did they
ghost
tell-
told her.
Well, maybe the ghost told her.
Maybe the ghosts were like BT dubs.
Yeah. We're not cool with this.
It's not okay.
But
Did she scold him?
No.
Really?
No, she didn't. And
Or-
this is what I found really freaking fascinating, to use her term. Chris admits that he admits that they do this, but then they just moved on to another scene. She never says anything. I don't know if they cut it or what happened, but I'm guessing they cut something there.
They would have
to cut
weird because she is not
weird.
the type to let that go.
Yeah, but she says something at the end. We'll
Really?
get there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Amy says the dead female, the 14 to 16-year-old girl that was killed by a male. Steve thinks it's Myrtle. When Steve tells this story, Myrtle is his mistress. This is where the separation thing came in. Yep. Steve pulls out the photo and Amy says, well, I had a sketch done. And Steve takes that photo out and they all go, yeah, it's the eyes. That's her. I can see that. And I'm like, are you people blind?
You high?
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Exactly. Oh,
that's the only sketch that I've
gotta look at the sketch. I'll try and remember to put the sketch up at the same time I post everything else on socials early on Friday morning. But oh man, I'm sorry, Mr. Sketch artist, but this looks like a drawing I did in 5th grade.
Yeah. Yep.
So now Amy talks about the covered wagon party and the natives showing up and starting killing everyone. And she believes it was a native attack on what she thought was a white family. Steve tells her about the attack on the Clay family. But like I said, that doesn't seem like it's the same thing. It was not a party.
I don't feel like that's right.
Mm-mm. And
there are a lot of holes in this episode.
I know. I found that too, especially because I watched it a couple of times. And the second time I was like, what? Mm-hmm. He tells her about how in 1989, Chris's family was excavating land here and found remains of a bunch of people, and a lot of them were children.
I'm wondering if maybe a Native American burial ground.
Yes, because I saw in an article that there was some kind of plague back in the 1500s maybe, and thousands of children died, and they were all buried on this land.
That sounds like a Native American burial ground.
Yep. And I thought it was interesting that Amy mentioned a couple of times that the families that were killed, were white. And when I looked at some articles, Chris's last name is White. The family's name is White.
Really?
Yeah.
So maybe it was his ancestors.
Yeah, could have been. I mean, it's just maybe a coincidence.
Yeah.
But...
Or
coincidence. So then Chris gives us potential title for the episode. He says, maybe it's an amusement park for the dead.
Okay, dramatic.
I know.
But I do like that title.
I do too. So Amy says that the natives are still here. They're still upset. They're still active. They did not want her doing the investigation. She said they might make the living feel intimidated and nervous. They resorted to making the living sick and making them hurt one another. The male associated with the property is having a heart attack or heart issues. And that's when Mom pipes up and says her son died of a heart attack, but he had 26 heart attacks before he died.
I didn't even know that was humanly possible.
How can you live through 26 heart attacks?
No wonder he died. His heart was probably like, I can't do this anymore.
It was probably Swiss cheese by the time he died.
Yeah.
Ugh.
26
heart attacks.
Unless they were like extremely minor.
Yeah.
But still, a heart attack.
There can be some minor ones where like you don't even know that it happened, and you go to the doctor for something later and they're like, you've had like 4 heart attacks.
That's what happened to my dad. He had a stroke and didn't even know it. And he went to the doctor years later and they're like, BTW, you had a stroke. And my dad just casually dropped it in conversation to me one time on the phone. And I'm like,
that might be something.
Can we maybe circle back to that and talk about it?
He maybe didn't want to upset you.
Yeah. But he's
okay now?
He's okay. Oh yeah, he's okay. He's on blood thinners and he's lived his best life.
Heart attacks and he had a stroke and he's fine?
Oh no, he didn't have a heart attack. He just had a stroke.
But I thought you said he had a bunch of minor heart attacks before the stroke.
No. Oh. I said you could have a bunch of minor heart attacks.
Oh.
And then I that was my
What was it okay.
He just had a minor stroke and didn't know about it.
Oh, he didn't know about it. Oh,
yeah.
I see.
That's how it all ties together.
They found. Okay,
yeah.
Got it. I thought he went to the hospital for a stroke and found out he had heart attacks. Okay, got it.
We're back on track.
We're back on track. Okay,
yep.
I'm glad he's okay.
He is okay, thankfully, yes.
Yeah. So Amy, where are we? Oh, Amy said she saw him, the brother with all the heart attacks. She saw him on the walk. And Steve says to Chris and Jewel, how do you feel about him being here? Is that comforting or is that scary? And they said, it's fine. He's protecting us. Amy says the natives are at the house. They can interact with others and show themselves. She talks about things being
The warrior.
Moved. And Jewel says that happens a lot. And then Jewel describes the warrior that she saw. And Amy says, basically, the Native Americans think this is their land. And I yelled, it is.
It is their land.
And they wanted it back, and they don't want anyone here. And their goal is to get these people off the land. And she says they did affect the son brothers' health. Chris wants to resolve it by moving mom off the property. He is beating this dead horse.
Yeah, he is.
And she says, I don't feel it's me they want off the property.
Ooh, mom's throwing some shade.
Everyone just looks at each other, and Amy puts her fingers together like, this is going to get good. And then,
the tea.
Yeah, exactly. And then they just cut away. I'm like, come on.
Come on, you guys.
So anyway, they play Should I Stay or Should I Go? We all know they're not going anywhere.
No.
Amy really surprised me by saying, it's hard for me to say to stop doing the investigations here because I feel like it should be investigated.
Interesting.
Yeah. But she asks them to really screen people that come in because you don't want any antagonistic people.
Like
looking at you, Bilbo.
Yeah.
So after every event or investigation, they need to leave an offering. And Steve asks, what should they leave as an offering? And Amy says, these natives are very hands-on. They are guiding people, and they, Chris and Jewel, will know what they should offer.
So they'll tell them.
And Steve goes, you sound like you both know. They both look at each other and go, yep. And Steve goes, you sound like you know what she's talking about. And they both said they do. He's like, well, you're ahead of the game. So I would love to know what that is.
Right.
But Amy would like to see the murdered girl get moved on, call a medium and have them move her on. They promise to take her advice, and they seem super relieved. They're all smiles, knowing what they need to do. So Chris and Jewel are now asking visitors to bring offerings to the Native Americans, and the negative activity has decreased.
Good.
So not mentioned in the show, but either in the articles I read or the other shows I watched, Chris's dad worked at the theme park when he was a kid, and that's why he wanted to restore it.
Oh, okay. So he has like emotional ties to it.
Yeah. And also not mentioned, he did restore it. And it was an open running theme park from 1985 to 1988.
So why did it close?
Well, one article said that it closed down because insurance got too expensive for them to keep it running.
Just go Class Action Park and make your own.
Yeah. I'm guessing that they said that it kind of fell into disrepair when he got sick because he had colon cancer. I don't know how long he was sick, but anyway. So, his name. The article states that Gaylord White is Chris's father, became the owner of the property. Worked at the amusement park when he was a teenager, so he desired to reopen the park.
Sure.
White kept the park open for 3 years, but astronomical insurance forces caused him to close the park. White then planned to use his land for mud bogging. His plans prompted archaeological fields from teams of Marshall University and Concord College to launch a rescue excavation in 1988. The field teams uncovered more corpses and over 25,000 artifacts. Gaylord White permitted the field teams to conduct a second excavation during the summer of 1989. During the 2 excavations, the field teams discovered 23 to 25 children's corpses. Archaeologists estimate that approximately 3,000 Indian bodies remain in the ground.
Wow. Yeah, definitely a burial ground.
Yeah. So there was another show I watched called Most Terrifying Places in America, and it was really over the top. It was like, and then, dun, dun, dun. It was really annoying. But that's where they talked about the little girl on the swing.
Okay. And
that she was hit by a truck, and she's still there on the swing. And then there was another show called Ghost Lab. They did the same. There was another one called Portals to Hell, and that's the one with Katrina, Jack Osborne and Katrina.
Yep.
Katrina, I can't remember her last name. Anyway, that was a really good episode. I'd say if you're going to watch any of these other ones, watch that one.
I haven't seen their show, but I've seen it on like Discovery Plus.
I've watched a couple and they're good. But what I liked about them for this one, they brought in a Native American shaman and talked to him about what was going on there.
I love that.
It was really cool. Yeah.
They seem like the type, though, to be super respectful.
They were very respectful.
Not that Amy's not.
No, I know.
Totally is, but.
Right.
Yeah.
And I looked up the website for this farm, the park, and they have an event called the Dark Carnival that they hold in October.
don't
And I was
that.
like, man, but in one of the episodes, and I don't remember which show it was, Chris is talking to, it might be Portals to Hell. And he says that it was in Portals to Hell. He says that he holds this event every year and all the proceeds go to local charities, local nonprofits.
I like
So
that a little more.
That makes me feel better about it. But yeah, this was a really weird episode because I felt like things didn't jive exactly.
Yeah, there's a lot of inconsistencies, which is not like the Dead Files. Usually they're very like cohesive and things mold together.
Right. Yeah, it was a little confusing. Maybe it was just edited weird. I don't know.
Yeah.
It is time for an Alanism.
It's time for an Alanism.
Anyway, I think we're done. But do you want to throw me a number and I'll do an Alanism for you?
2.
Okay, this is in reference to his wedding ring.
Okay.
When this ring comes off, I don't need this finger anymore.
Okay, that's kind of romantic though.
Cute, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Aww.
Well, thanks for joining us, everybody.
Thanks for joining, everybody.
And welcome to our first episode of season 3. And do you know what you're going to do next?
I will do, let me just pick a number. I will do season 9. Let's stick in season 9, episode 2.
Okay, let me make sure we haven't done it. Where
What's it?
is
Do you have what it's called?
Here it is. Season 9, episode 2. Doop, doop, doop. My scroller stopped scrolling. I'm only on 5, 6, 7, 8. We did, if it's called Deadly Reflections, you did it already. That's the one in Waxahachie.
Waxahachie. All right, let's do season 9, episode 1.
That is called Triggered. I am not showing that we've done that one.
Okay. I put it in the show notes too, so.
Okay, great.
Yep. All right.
All right. Well, thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
And Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. I hope you all have a
Happy New
safe
Year's.
and fun and wonderful New Year. This will already be out. It'll be the New Year when you hear this, but I hope it was safe. It was fun. And you did what you wanted to do and you brought the New Year in the way you wanted to bring it in, whether that was out with friends, whether it was home on the couch.
I'm going to be home on the couch in my warm Snuggie. That's what I'm
in
going
your
to do.
Greta Garbo wrap is what I'm calling it now.
Okay, great. That's what I'll be doing. I need a cigarette that's on a
holder.
A holder, long holder. Yeah.
Yep.
All
right.
right. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Activity Continues podcast. We really appreciate you giving us your ears for a bit. Please reach out if you have a suggestion for which episode of the Dead Files we should cover next, or if you have a spooky story you'd like us to share on the show. We can be reached at theactivitycontinues@gmail.com or through our website or any of our socials. Links are all in the description of the show. Please feel free to drop us a note and say hi. And join us next time when the activity continues. The Activity Continues is produced by me, Amy, at Collected Sounds Media, and is part of the independent Collected Sounds Podcast Network. We are also proud members of the Boo Pod network of super cool podcasts.
Nailed it.